Hello.
Hi.
We are at our 300th video. So we wanted to just express our thanks to everyone for watching and for commenting and for being in regular communication with us, even when they don't agree with us. We appreciate all this because I think it is the mark of true community when you can speak to each other even when you don't agree. So we know that you probably are wondering why we called this Thanks and Tanks, and we will get into that a little later. But we wanted to talk about some of the stats.
Yeah, so as of last week we passed 100,000 views, something we never would have expected.
No.
As of tomorrow we're at the 6-month mark of the videos. So again, we never thought after 6 months we would get this kind of feedback, but it's very, very gratifying, so thank you very much.
Yeah, we get about 1,000 viewers.
I would say about 1,000 regular viewers, and we hit 747 subscribers today. That's a 747. That reminds me of takeoff somehow.
Yeah.
So that's the gratifying stats, but as you just said, it's more gratifying that the kind of comments we're getting are overwhelmingly positive, and even the ones that are more challenging than sometimes can be positive and challenging at the same time, but there's very little negative in response. Yeah,
we're very happy with that. So we wanted to tell you about some of the results of the videos, like which ones have done well and which ones haven't done so well. For the ones that have done well, Ray Fran's series.
That seems to be head and shoulders above all the other series. It's averaging, I would say, about 1,000 viewers. And that is amazing. I guess we could say about that it's a surprise because we didn't even plan to do a Ray Fran series. But when we saw the kind of results it got,
yeah,
let's go.
Right. Then we did a door-to-door series.
The door-to-door series, one of those videos, the first one, has gone over 2,000 views. So I'm very happy with that because that was an earlier video, and it tends to be the earlier videos that do a little less, much less well, not little less.
Yeah, because the new people probably haven't looked at a lot of the older stuff. The Cross series.
Also a surprise because we started that one very early on, but when we restarted it a couple of months back, that one seemed to cue the others, and so we can only guess that this is a very important symbolic issue for a lot of ex-witnesses in terms of the credibility of the Watchtower.
Right. Hort on Acts 15 and the governing body,
which is kind of an odd one out.
Yes.
That was the very first one that generated a lot of interest way back in the first week in March. We put that one up, and you have your theory as to why it did well.
I don't know. I think maybe just because it had the word governing body in the title, that it triggered a lot of response. We weren't expecting such a big response to it. And then the Daniel series has done very well.
It's done very well overall, but it's a very mixed bag. I think we've done 29 videos in that series.
Yeah, some have done better than others.
Have done fairly poorly, but at least one is way over 1,000. That's the one about the House of Cards collapsing. So again, it's that image, I suppose, that sold it.
Right. All the personal testimony ones, they were probably among the first that really did well.
Yeah.
All the personal testimony ones, which is kind of understandable, I guess. In the new series, what JW.org is not telling you and why JW.org will fall are off to very good starts. They're doing quite well. So why do we think these ones are doing so well?
When you look at the whole list, you think, okay, they have something in common. They could be construed as negative towards the Watchtower. They're the ones that have the JW.org hook.
Yeah.
And the most critical of the organization.
Yeah, they are problem-oriented in the sense that they tell you what the problem is. So they emphasize that. So now we should probably look at the ones that didn't do so well, the ones that we're calling the tank ones.
why do I use the word tank? Because if you're a movie buff or a music buff like I am, the usual expression that's used for movies that have disappointing box office or disappointing sales, in the case of music, you would say they tanked. So we've had several video series that have tanked, some predictably, because we kind of knew they don't have that hook.
Right.
But nevertheless, they were important to us, and so most of them are in the early series, before the Ray France series that really started to grow the numbers. We had put these on already because we were thinking they were very important for people trying to rebuild their lives after the negative experience of the Watchtower.
Solution oriented.
Yeah.
So of those, the Bible in Bits would be one of them. Bible
in Bits is one I composed just last year, and it's based on 30 years of experience in the church, and noticing that what the churches have in common with the cults, and especially JW.org, is that the witnesses get the Bible in bits. They learn the Bible as a system of proof text. Many evangelicals do that as well. But liberals, non-evangelicals in the churches, just don't get the Bible very much at all. And if they do get it, it's in tiny chunks.
In snippets, yeah.
So it's the problem that is at the root of the fruitlessness of many Christians.
Right. Slaves of men.
That was an analysis we did 20 years ago of the common characteristics of cultic groups, not just cults, but cultic churches as well.
Right. So the reason a lot of these ones didn't do well, we can say, is because they were right at the start. But the reason they're at the start was because when we were beginning, we were thinking, okay, which are the important subjects that we want to deal with? So they were the priority ones for us. That's why we started with them. So they were the things that made a difference to us when we left the witnesses and
got us past the difficulty.
It put us in a good direction. So that's why we wanted to talk about these things especially. 66 books was one of those.
66 books is about, specifically the ones that are already up in videos are about the Pentateuch, because if you can get into the Pentateuch, you solve a lot of your JW baggage problems immediately. Just by processing the first few books of the Bible.
Right. Humpty Dumpty and Bible interpretation. I think that one's very important as a guide to how to read the Bible.
Yes, the biggest problem in the evangelical churches is not do we believe in the Bible or don't we? It's how do we interpret it properly.
Right. Divine names.
Also based on a sermon that I was forced to give about 12 years ago, when the United Church of Canada, of which we were a part for 20 years, decided that it needed a new hymn book and wanted to take the word Father out of the hymn book, which they did systematically. So it generated in us a desire to do an overview of the development of the divine designations throughout the entire Bible. Because if you're a witness, you just assume this name Jehovah is spread throughout the whole Bible.
Start to finish.
Not so.
But there are differences and changes along the way.
Yeah.
Paradise Lost series.
Again, to cure people of their Watchtower orientation in the Old Testament, we thought, why not do a comprehensive series covering all the texts the Watchtower uses to give hope to Jehovah's Witnesses, a hope unfortunately stolen from the Old Testament, i.e. the promises to Israel.
Right. Also, there was one similar reason, the Hope series, and for a lot of people, I think they couldn't get past the fact that I was reading from the New World Translation, for one thing, and I read text from Genesis to Revelation, basically. I'm reading chunks of scripture, but the reason I did it was because the Paradise Hope was so big a hurdle for me to get past when I left the witnesses, that I felt if we could see what is the continuity of promise in Scripture from the very beginning to the end, in the Old and the New Testament.
And you did a good job.
Oh, thank you. So if you haven't seen it, and if it is something that is a problem for you, a hurdle for you, then I would encourage you to watch the series. The other thing that didn't do too well were the individual book reviews. Some of those have not done too well. But I would say we will continue to do book reviews, whether they get good viewership or not, because books have been a major reason for us to even be able to do this series at all, like to do the channel, is from the things that we've learned from the books we've read.
Yeah. And then finally, I think we put on the list Martha, Martha.
Oh, yes.
Which got virtually no views, and I was a bit disappointed, because that was a sermon that I think sums up, sermon given about a dozen years ago again, that sums up the binary problem in the churches. Today it's even more marked than it was 12 years ago, i.e. liberal versus conservative, Republicans versus Democrats, left versus right, all of the things that cause us to divide the universe into two categories. But in Luke, in chapter 10 of Luke, at the end, there's this little story of Martha and Mary, and there Jesus lays the real binary problem before us. And the question is, are we Martha or are we Mary? It's our experience, both in the Watchtower and in the church, that there are far more Marthas than there are Marys. And until we deal with that, we will continue to have zealous people who don't know enough to make the mark they should be making as Christians upon the people they're targeting or trying to help.
So the busy, mission-minded Christians and versus the more thoughtful, meditative Christians
who spend a lot of time at Jesus' feet.
Yeah. So really, you need both, but there's an imbalance right now.
So there's a lot about that in the 3 Martha, Martha videos.
Right.
One more note, I think.
Yeah, new wrinkle.
A new wrinkle as of this week. Max has helped us to get past the problem. Some have indicated they want to help with the work we're doing and didn't know how, and we didn't know how either till Max said, well, why don't you think about Patreon? So we have done that, and there's more information about that in the description. We're not trying to, no, don't please think that we're seeking assistance, because we will do this anyway. We will keep doing it. We're not under any
but we don't want to prevent people from blessing who want to bless in some way, and so we don't want to stop them, but we will continue to do this regardless.
But there's many out there we know who are stretched too far financially already, and partly because of sometimes because of their Watchtower background. So please don't feel any obligation to do this. But again, we wouldn't want to prevent those who feel that the Lord has placed it upon their heart to assist in some way. So there's more info about that on the description of the video.
Yes.
But thanks again for the comments and the time you spend in interacting with us in your comments and in your emails, because all of that is the encouragement we need to keep going.
Yeah, very encouraging comments. Thank you.
Bye for now.